Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're calling the meeting to order at 6:25. 6:35. It does help that I can't read. Board, underneath consent calendar, we are going to be adding under free and reduced facilities requests, we are going to be adding homeowners annual meeting for Holly Hills HOA. They have used a facility often for their once a year meeting, and this just kind of got bogged down in the pipeline. So we'll pass it down. And at this time, I would like to go out of our regular meeting and into open supplemental budget hearing. Do we have any citizens' comments concerning the supplemental budget? No. Okay. I will close the supplemental budget hearing at this point, and we will go back into our regular business meeting agenda. Let's see. Sonia, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sonia. And we now have the student body report. And I believe we have Anthony reporting tonight.
Danny, unfortunately, couldn't be here tonight, so I'll be doing it.
Very good, okay.
I'll introduce myself. My name is Anthony Hudson. I'm the ASD Vice President. And I want to start off by just repeating the mission statement. The mission of Bronco leadership is to empower students, represent diversity, and encourage school spirit to make Parkrose a better place. Okay, so in leadership, this month we've expanded our Parkrose Provides campaign. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a program where we get students to donate food to our pantry, and then we provide families with food over the weekends, just because a lot of families don't get that opportunity to get free food over the weekends like they would at school. We recently had Target employees volunteer at our school to help pack backpacks and assist leadership students in writing emails to other companies, asking them to donate either food, money, or volunteers to our cause. They also donated food to our pantry. Our goal by the end of the year is to be providing 40 families with food over the weekend. We also hope to have some type of organization for the summertime, because a lot of the times there's not enough food at home, especially over the summer. This Friday we're going to be hosting our first winter dance. It's called the after party, right after the basketball game. And through the Rose Armory, we've also been expanding leadership influence around the school. In terms of sports, cheer is preparing for a big competition in Swelliston on the 3rd. They're working on their routines and improving their stunts, and they've really improved their scores from last year. Boys basketball, they didn't have the most successful preseason, but they came back and they put a lot of effort into working on winning 4 out of their 5 league games so far, which is really good. They're improving on their coordination and defense and their teammate chemistry. Girls basketball is working hard to adapt with a fairly new team. There's not a lot of seniors, it's a lot of the younger students. They're struggling on building chemistry and they're having the same mentality within the team. Hopefully it's working out though. So swimming has won every single meet and is ranked #1 in Northwest Oregon. Parkrose will be hosting the district meet on February 9th and 10th. The girls team has also improved drastically from last year, winning 3 games so far, up from 0 from last year.
Wow.
So that's really good. Dance has been preparing for their state routine, which they will perform in March, and they have a competition this Saturday at Philomar. And wrestling has had a decrease in numbers from the start of the year. This Thursday will be the last home duel, which is also their senior.
You guys have been busy.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot in leadership.
I was at the game for the first half on Friday, and I was impressed, number one, with the number of students that were there. But number two, the teamwork that I was seeing.
Yeah. I think they're really clicking now, getting all the W's.
Yeah, and,
It's fun to watch.
yeah, they were. It was some fast-paced ball.
Yeah, for sure.
Any questions?
Do you know the idea of the breakdown on the swim team? Is it upperclassmen or freshmen?
I actually don't really know exactly, yeah.
Was Raylyn she's a gal in leadership, right? And did she set up did she spearhead the food pantry?
You said Ray?
I thought Raylyn?
Raylene, yeah.
it's Jacqueline Mason.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Danny and another gal.
Yeah, so,
both at the town hall with Jeff Merkley, and they did a fantastic job asking
Yes.
questions, and it was
Yes.
just really amazing to see.
So she's on leadership, sorry,
Okay.
I thought you meant who.
I might have been,
She-
Yeah.
So in
She's
leadership, we
one
have
of our
committees.
leadership kids as well.
yeah, they did amazing.
We have committees, and I believe Raylene is one of the committee heads on the Parkrose Provide.
Yeah, they did amazing.
I do have a question about the families who are getting the food. How are you finding which families are the neediest or are signing up? What is the
So it's more of like what we see.
Okay.
At first, it was leadership students recommending students who they thought would need extra help, and we're just slowly building on who we believe needs help.
Okay.
We just try to keep it as anonymous as we can.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's anonymous.
So we get, so in leadership, we'll get a sticky note with the amount of people in the family, and then we'll get a teacher who we deliver it to them. So we'll pack like 2 or 3 bags for them, and then we'll deliver it to the teacher, and then that teacher will deliver it to the students. So we have no way of knowing who it is.
Okay.
I
I appreciate that.
love it. I mean, I am so proud of Parkrose High School. You have no idea.
And nearly through the first semester, so.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Presentation and recognition. College and career readiness presentation. 15 minutes plus 5 minutes of question and answers. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and start while Jessica is handing out some handouts. This is Jessica Natonic. She is our college and career specialist. She's joining us this year. Her position's funded through Measure $98. And Jessica came to us. She's been in Portland for the last few years and was a counselor in elementary, middle school, and then prior to that was on the East Coast as a high school counselor. So comes with quite a bit of experience, and we were really lucky to find her. We're going to just briefly kind of review where we were and where we are now with our college and career readiness at Parkrose High School. So our vision is to really prepare all kids to be college and career ready, and what that looks like for our College and Career Center is that we believe that it is not our decision to decide whether a student either pursues a college or career pathway after high school. We believe that it's our responsibility to give them all of the tools, knowledge, and skills to make that decision on their own or with support from us if they access that. But that every student should be capable of leaving, able to navigate a college or a career pathway, or maybe a college then career then college pathway, or maybe a career then college pathway. But whatever they decide, they'll have the tools to change their mind and do what's best for them and what meets their needs. But they should not be pigeonholed in a certain direction when they leave Parkrose High School. So a little bit of history. I am in the middle of my 3rd year at Parkrose High School, and when we started there was a really lack of a system school-wide. There was inconsistent communication around what courses students should take. They were getting different messages from different teachers. Different students had access to different pathways, and there were just inconsistent opportunities. So for example, our AVID kids had different opportunities than our non-AVID kids, and it really depended on who students had relationships with. One example of that is the first year our valedictorian was a very accomplished young man, and he left Parkrose High School with 0 scholarships because there just was not that school-wide system to support him in applying for those financial resources. So where we are now is last year with the College and Career Secretary, I feel like we were able to establish a clear vision, and then with Jessica's position this year, we are able to make some very solid gains in that kind of deficit that we were in. And so, for example, right now we have a College and Career Exploration class for all freshmen who are not in AVID. So they will get a semester of this class. It is aligned with some of the objectives from the AVID classroom that we believe all students should have access to. That class is getting support from Jessica. She meets with the teacher, they collaborate, and it also provides access to the freshmen. So Jessica has pushed into the AVID classes, but also the college and career classes, so that all students are hearing from her and getting introduced to their 4-year plan, which Jessica will go into later. Our 10th graders take financial exploration, and again, it's for all our non-AVID sophomores. The same type of format is set up where they're aligned, they're getting support from Jessica, and again, she can access either all 10th graders through their AVID class or through this financial exploration class. This year, for the first time, we took all juniors to the college fair. We expanded FAFSA night, and Jessica has done a better job of improving our relationship with Portland Workforce Alliance and ensuring more students have access to that. And another example is all sophomores will go to the career fair. So really making sure that we're not limiting opportunities depending on what students are involved with. This year we had senior week, which looked a lot different from the past. We had more instant admissions, more application workshops, and what that really just means is that we're removing financial barriers for students and increasing access. We changed our academic homecoming a little bit to really tailor towards grade level needs. So again, making sure students are being exposed to the information they need at like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, because it looks a lot different if you're a freshman versus a senior. And then what also has been huge is the classroom guidance. So instead of inconsistent communication depending on what class you're in, students are hearing from Jessica and really getting a consistent message of where they need to be at each year in order to make sure they have all the tools in place as they move forward. And Jessica is going to go into more details about the College and Career Center.
Thank you. So the College and Career Center, if I was to sort of sum up where we are and what we're delivering to students, I would say this year the College and Career Center is really focusing on providing accessibility, visibility, and just being a guidance, a source of guidance for our students. Our resource center itself is just that. We want that center to be a place where all students are welcome and encouraged to come at any time to get answers to questions, to share their concerns, to get one-on-one support, to gather resources, just to truly be a place in the building where any college and career need can be met. We're an accessible location, so we're right there in the cafeteria where students can come and go. We have 5 computer stations to provide students access to that technology that is typically needed in most college and career planning things at this point. We have resources displayed in as many possible ways as we can, both electronically and in paper, and we really try to send out as much communication as possible to students and parents regarding happenings, events, and all of that kind of stuff. When I started this year, as Molly said, I had really noticed that a lot of our students, particularly those not in a current AVID program, were sort of lacking a lot of those how-to tools in navigating through the college and career process. So a lot of what I've been doing this year is really developing as many interactive tools and materials as I can to deliver and get out to the students, which we will, as they are being delivered, we are also working them into a more comprehensive program to develop structure in doing so. So with that comes the development of grade level handbooks. Each grade will have handbooks that truly outline exactly what you want to do during each grade, and it will be integrated both through our office and the AVID program and on our website and through the Google Classrooms that we have. I've created a Google Classroom where there are downloadable worksheets and how-tos and so on, so that students can do assignments or tasks that really do help guide them through the process. I don't know how to click on. One of the things that Molly mentioned was our 4-year plan. And the 4-year plan is something that we rolled it out with all of our 9th graders, and it looks a little bit like this, and it is, we are going to continue to update it to include even more post-secondary planning on it. But the 4-year plan at first glance just looks like something where you write down your classes. It is typically used to monitor progress towards graduation, but for us, rolling it out with the 9th graders and introducing it to 8th graders in a few days at forecasting, we are trying to use it regularly at grading time, at forecasting time, because we look at it as a tool for students to truly visualize their college readiness. By keeping track of the classes that they're taking and keeping track of their interests and their career goals and all that kind of stuff, it really does provide them a motivational tool and a visualization for planning high school to make it meaningful and going towards that next step of college and your career plans. Like Molly said, I've been fortunate enough to be able to go into a lot of the classrooms this year, particularly those 9th and 10th grade career exploration and financial exploration classes, and it's given me a great opportunity to reach all the 9th grade and 10th graders in a classroom level, and we will continue to do so, but we also firmly believe in the importance of individual one-on-one support, because every student's needs really are different and vary from person to person. So I've been doing my absolute best to meet with as many students as possible, and we really are trying to put them on a schedule so that there will be periods of the year where every student in a particular grade will be expected to meet with me or a counselor and or someone in the college and career field to provide them that one-on-one support. And you know, one of the overarching goals with our program is to really make sure that we give every student the tools to develop their self-awareness so that they can truly develop a pathway towards their college and career future. So for those of you that have a packet, and we'll take you to the next one if I don't go the wrong way, which I did, sorry. In your packet, the main page in that packet, that first page that you see, which is where you guys can kind of start off on if you wish, that is essentially the college and career pathways graph. That's our kind of the main poster. The second page, it looks like the one up on the screen, is primarily just a little bit of detail and description of that graph. But in looking at that graph, this is intended to be the organizational framework for college and career readiness. All students in our school start in that center circle, which is essentially the foundation. That's where they will gain their skills, academic knowledge, academic skills, and personal social development and college and career development through both their coursework and then through individual classroom and grade-wide activities and interventions with us. As students gain that foundation and do exploration activities, they learn to connect with one of 6 career paths. Those career paths are generally broad interest areas within a career, and as they dig even deeper into that, they then can branch out into one of 16 focus areas. Those focus areas and these career paths are nationally classified career clusters, so for any of you that have done college and career kind of exploration, you will see these across the board in a lot of tools. We really wanted to incorporate them into our school so that they are transferable in any exploration tool that a student was to use. As students have their focus areas, there are then possible careers that are outlined or suggested or recommended for them to consider. And this last page is just a little bit of a supplement to that graph, because that graph is pretty big and detailed and hard to go into too much detail. But this is just something for any student or parent or a user of any kind to really refer to. They can see those 6 pathways and look at what kind of personality traits do I have that may help me fall into this path. What does this path look like? And most of all, what kind of courses do I want to take in high school to help me consider pursuing this path? So we're really trying through all of our activities and these graphs here to send the message to students that by developing an understanding and identity of your potential career interests and pathways, you can set goals, and then we can help you get on that path to pursuing those goals.
So where we're going, I feel like Jessica has done a phenomenal job of laying the groundwork, and but there's still a lot of work to do. We're really, I think, in year 1 of this. So our goal is to create a school-wide approach with cohesive career pathways and all the resources integrated starting freshman year all the way through their senior year, so students really leave feeling prepared. Our goal is to change the culture of the high school by ensuring that all students believe that college is an option and that they have the knowledge and tools to pursue that option if they choose. And then to really make sure that this is systematic and that these college and career programs and opportunities are embedded at each grade level so students get the opportunity to explore and figure out their interests and really make some connections before they leave us into the real world. And then we want everyone to have equal access. That's definitely something that's been missing and something that we really believe firmly in. And that concludes our presentation with 2 minutes to spare.
So, thank you so much, and I'd like to have Michael and Christine join you for a moment. I would also be appreciative if the two of you might give assignments. So, Christine, I'd like you to talk about the computer science pathway that we are developing, because this is not only college and career readiness, but Measure 98. So if you would cover that aspect quickly, and Michael, if you would talk a little bit about our Ed Prep pathway, a little bit of what we've tried to do, where we're trying to get in, and your thoughts about that. So
this will be our first year that we start at the high school with a coding, a programming class. That'll start in February. It'll start second semester because it was so new. We didn't have anybody forecasted to start taking it first semester. And so that will begin sort of the very first building block of our computer science pathway. We'll start with that sort of general computer science elective. Then we're looking at a computer science for all class to offer next year, but also most especially an AP coding class that'll be a full year class, and that will be the class that gets lined up with Mount Hood and will be available for dual credit. So we would like next year to possibly have 3 different computer science outcomes.
When you say computer science, first one was you're starting in Feb this year,
Yes.
and then you're gonna have AP coding.
Yes.
What was the third one?
It's called Computer Science for All. It's a much more general class, and it really is a very broad look at all sorts of different aspects of computer science and the different possibilities and careers and the way that it affects your life in a much more general, broad way.
Okay, so it won't be, every student would not be taking computer science for all.
Probably not next year, but
Yeah.
that is my long-term vision.
Oh, I see.
Eric, question?
Are you doing the classes or?
Am I teaching them? No.
We have a teacher who
Grossly unqualified for that.
in addition, we've been invited into a grant with Portland State University in this area, and we can talk more about that, but there is some wonderful professional development that we've been included in the big grant that they got.
So we also are seeking opportunities for our kids for teacher pathway. So what that would look like, ideally, is our students that are interested in the field of education and being able to support them through high school in that interest, but also then carrying them through to one of our local universities, and then ideally them coming back and teaching with us. And part of that would be that they'd have an opportunity to do their practicum and their student teaching here in Parkrose. So we did some initial research with Warner Pacific, which is a local college. One of the things that we have learned in our investigating of this is we want to make sure that it's something that really is incentivized for our kids, because a lot of times one of the things that is a detractor is the cost. And we have met with Warner Pacific. We've met with Portland Community College, which has a partnership with Pacific University, which they call it a 2x2 arrangement, meaning that students could go to PCC for 2 years and then finish out their degree at Pacific and become teachers. And then again, part of that program would include 2 things. One, dual credit opportunities at the high school, so they're able to build some of that credit prior to getting to college, which ultimately is going to save our kids money. And then the second piece is that ongoing partnership where kids actually get to have their student teaching experience here in Parkrose, and ultimately really hopefully keep them attached to us and be able to bring our kids back to our community to teach. So right now we're kind of in the program building phase, because we want to find a program that's actually going to meet the needs of our kids. A lot of times the university really wants to drive how it all works, And we've discovered through even just our conversations with Warner is that we don't want it to just work for the university, we want it to most importantly work for the students, and that it's going to leave them with a greater advantage as they leave high school. So Karen and I will have a meeting this spring with Eastern Oregon University because they have a program that is interesting and could be a greater potential for us in the future.
That is in the brand.
It is, but it's a local, but they write the curriculum and we actually teach the curriculum, so we ultimately would have a teacher here that would teach the class and the kids would go to campus twice a year
Okay.
as an official part of the program. And then all the student teaching and the practicum experience is coordinated.
Michael, a few years ago, the Mongol Community College staff, they came and they wanted to expand and they were going to bring more additional opportunities to the Maywood area right here. Have they said, did they forget?
Well, I don't know if they've forgotten, but I just think that one of the reasons that Karen and I have sought other partnerships is because some have been slow to move and make any progress. And I know part of Mountain Hood's issue was that they did try to pass a bond. That bond did not pass. That would have had a huge influence on the Maywood campus. So, now we're trying to advocate for our kids and not necessarily disagree with the partnership that we have with Mountain Hood Community College because they've been a great partner in many aspects of dual credit. But when it comes to education, they are not currently offering anything that we can take advantage of.
Questions about access to the computers and how it's set up. It's pretty daunting when you look at how to look at scholarships. You key something in online, I mean, you can get created and lost on websites. What kind of system do you have set up? Is it all digital? Do you go online? Do you have bookmark websites? Do you have?
For scholarships specifically? So right now, I send out students emails anytime there are scholarship opportunities, and I kind of have a little, I don't want to say a rubric, but I essentially have a format so that every email comes in the same. Likewise, we have a scholarship database that my goal is to get it up on the website so that it's constantly updated, essentially the Google Doc basically, that students can access anytime. I do have some recommended websites that I recommend to students, so when they come in with me and they ask questions, if it's just a general question, usually we start by going over the scholarships that I have on my database that I have emailed them and or have printed materials in my office. And then we do some site searches together with some sort of guidelines based on their particular need and or area of study. But yeah, the ultimate goal is for that database to be constantly updated online. And right now, I sort of email students several times a week as I see them, but moving forward, I'll have like much more like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays are scholarship emails, Tuesdays, Thursdays are job emails, just because there are so many, and it can be a pretty daunting process.
Okay. And I do have a question. It's really important to have the work experience when you're in school. You've got a goal, you want to be a doctor.
Yes.
Having that experience when you're in high school,
Yes.
doing some type of work experience, an internship, job shadowing. Does any of that work into what you guys have devised, or is that part maybe stage 2?
No, right now it works in on a little bit of a casual level, but it does. I also email students every time I know of jobs and internships. Likewise, we connect with any teachers that teach relevant coursework. I also have a database for that as well. The job and internships, I've seen a huge response from students just in the last few weeks of how much they're really eating up the idea for all these opportunities. And I try to connect with as many of the employers or organizations as possible, and a lot of them are willing to come to the school and do workshops, like info sessions. So we've been doing a lot of lunchtime info sessions, and I have the students come, we reserve a room, and we provide snacks, and they come and they get kind of a little first-hand opportunity at gaining some opportunity to apply. So right now it's really just in that informative, keep the communication going, get as much information out to the kiddos as we can, but it does, more structure is certainly the goal.
That was my next question about partnerships and business. They need to get involved
They
in
do.
order to keep our workforce here
Yes.
instead of going out of state. So I'm glad you guys are the work you're doing.
Well, Board Member McKenzie has some experience in this area. She'd be a good person to talk to at some point. Dave, I think you might be our last comment.
Yeah, Jessica and Molly. I was wondering, is there a developing network of utilizing recent grads from Parkrose and what they're doing currently in the university or community colleges or even trade schools and kind of shadowing, or it's like going down to visit them as this is what life is about after?
Yeah. We had academic homecoming this year, and we made a little bit of changes to it from last year, and I think that we are certainly looking to make more changes to it again next year. This year, we did have alumni come and speak to the students, but they were all freshman alumni, so still very informative and helpful, but I do think connections of students that have maybe a few years in would be great. And, oh, does anybody stop talking?
Just finish your sentence.
So yes, but certainly room for more growth. And then when we do the campus field trips, we're going on 3 field trips in March. And we try to connect with our alumni students to help facilitate those field trips whenever possible, so.
Yeah, it's my daughter's facilitated one of those at
Oh, good.
OSU, and it gives her a sense of joy as well, and I think it puts a face to Parkrose.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I remember you in school, so it's great.
We have ceramics together.
So I think, as you can see, this was an important presentation for the board tonight. We wanted to make sure that you saw the architecture that Molly has been developing for her school. And she has had great partnership with these folks up here in a very comprehensive college and career readiness design of a program. Measure 98 is helping that, but that isn't the major thing. The major thing is this overall college and career readiness program. We'll have more to report throughout the year. I think they've done a fine job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Would you make the PowerPoint available to the board?
Yeah, just one correction in that. Oh, while they're going back to their seats, I wanted to mention to the board, since we talked about scholarships, the district has been approached by city council to start a new scholarship. And the scholarship, and Molly, you and I'll talk about this when I see you at our next meeting, is called the Barbara Roberts Public Service Award. Barbara Roberts was a board member here, thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much.
Here in Parkrose, and City Council has a lot of interest in developing a scholarship of between $2,500 and $5,000 to go to a single female leader from the high school. Thank you, Molly. Single female leader from the school district, from the high school. And so as Molly and I discuss this and make sure that this is something she wants to have capacity for, this is a great opportunity for a student to, this is a female leader in particular that is looking for a career later on as some kind of public service person. So they're very specific. And I welcome this opportunity. I think it's tremendous. And she was a champion for people who, weren't always.
Special needs.
Yeah, special needs, but females. She herself is a great example. And she herself would come and present this award. Just saying. So I'll keep you posted. Okay.
It's you. It's your recognition.
Thank you. Well, not my recognition. It's
You're
yours.
the one who's doing it.
I'm doing it. So, very pleased tonight to be called upon to do the School Board Appreciation Month. And I would like to read a proclamation to the board and to the audience. January 2018 School Board Recognition Month Proclamation. Whereas Oregonians rely on public education to ensure prosperous quality of life and strong economic health for Oregon, and whereas public schools nurture and train diverse student populations using their best abilities, whatever the resources, to give students the knowledge, the skills, and the opportunities they need to succeed. And whereas board members build vision and policies that make it possible for education organizations to teach Oregon's children, and whereas the committed men and women who serve on the boards of Oregon's 197 school district, 19 education service district, 17 community colleges deserve recognition and thanks for their dedication to the education needs of the people of Oregon. Now therefore, we hereby declare our appreciation to the members of the Parkrose School Board and proclaim the month of January to be School Board Recognition Month. We urge all citizens to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members in preparing today's students for tomorrow's world. So it's with that we appreciate and recognize all of your hard work and how much you guys put into this. And you can see a nice display all about our thanks and recognition. You see it around the room. If you look around at the break, maybe you can see some of the things the kids have made for you. And we also have, as usual, our gifts for you. And it would be fun maybe if you open them. What do you think?
Thank you.
This is for you. Color coded.
Yeah, I think.
Absolutely color coded. You know how smart you are.
Oh, man.
Didn't work out that well, thank you. Did you notice my shoes tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh, no.
Hey, check this out. Sonia?
And we'll look at this again in June, and you will see massive growth. Massive.
I mean, excuse me, but I'm not, when I see 61%, I would love to see 100%, but I also know the kind of students that we have to serve. To be way above, a little bit above, and add.
Yeah, we're working hard. I mean, the
It's
kids are working
obvious.
hard. I'm excited for the Dibbles data to bring you next time. That's the data you're used to seeing.
Right.
So I think you're going to be more familiar with it. But this is the data I like to look at.
Sure.
I like to
Yes.
look at the progress monitoring data. And this is what the principals really love to look at.
I do have a question on the,
Okay, go ahead.
on the WAT and the WBT.
Uh-huh.
They wash each other out. Is that kind of a typical, you have about even on the extremes, or is it?
No, actually, so that 17 for the well above typical is a really, is a strong number relative to when you look at a class. You know, the thing that where I go is I do go to like meets, doesn't meet, and this requires kind of that deeper dive. So if I'm a classroom teacher, I'm gonna look, who are those 17% of kids that are making that well above typical growth? It very well could be the students who are termed the lowest readers, because whatever I've been doing with them is helping them grow at a much faster rate. No, it's actually, they're promising numbers. What I like to look at is who's well below typical, because if it's a student we're providing extra time and extra help with, then that's definitely a literal red flag to say, whatever we're doing isn't working for this student and we need to respond in a different way. And that's really good information for a classroom teacher. That's where this becomes informative. The actual benchmark only tells a teacher so much, but something like this where they can see that this is actually causing them to grow, and I know what I've been doing in the classroom on a regular basis is actually helping them. That's why Karen says the principals like to look at this, because this does tell you a better story of progress. And if I was sitting down with a parent, I could say, your child got a 200 in the fall, and here are all the kids that got 200s. When you get well above typical, that means that your child's performing at a much faster clip than the other kids. But if I'm a kid who's a really high reader, high achiever, it's really, really tough to get above typical growth, because you're in the 95th percentile of this standardized test across the country. So you're at these really, really high rates. So to make growth, to read faster than 200 some words a minute and answer all the comprehension questions really well, that's where it gets into like, well, what does it really mean for this kid?
So just coincidence that the numbers are so symmetrical.
That was quiet.
It's-
That's quiet.
Yeah.
Michael, stay up and talk about math.
Oh, sure. So we also changed the measure in looking at where we are with math. And one of the key reasons for that, as you know, is we changed the sequence of how we take mathematics. So as we grow our new program for secondary mathematics and we adopt for K-5, one key thing will be this measure at 7th grade, because to me, it'll be a key indicator, because it'll tell us, are kids transitioning from elementary school and performing at higher levels, and then what's it translating to at 7th grade? So right now, we just are measuring the number of 7th grade students who are receiving overall meets for trimester 1 in math, and you can see that number there. This is a critical piece too, because one of the things that's very noticeable as I've met with the math teachers over the last couple weeks is that it's very rigorous, it's very difficult. And so teachers are really concerned because they're like, this is really, really hard for kids because they're having to conceptualize so much more, so much less procedural than it is conceptual. And that's definitely the trend that they're seeing at all the grade levels. And I'm just really, at some point, I would love to bring the math team to come tell you about their experience, the goods and the bads, because they're working really, really hard. There's a lot of effort, but I think they're learning a lot as well in terms of what these new concepts are doing for kids and what they will do for them in the future.
Hopefully objective, because some of, as you mentioned before, some school districts already have gone into the linear math. And I'm sure at the get-go you're going to see stats like this, right?
You
see
are.
numbers.
Exactly.
So,
There's a dip. We call it the implementation dip. This team is actually changing the way we do math. So like on Saturday, Eric was talking at the budget meeting like, hey, you have to do something different. And I was like, we are doing something. That's why we keep reporting to you about what we're doing. We have all year. We send it out to the parents. We put it up on the website. We are changing the way we do math, quintessentially at the core. And we'll be doing the same for K-5, even beginning later on this year. So you're not going to see instantaneous wow factor. But the way that we are changing this and teaching our staff to have confidence about teaching math, you are going to see a difference. You will see a change. And I think the kids are going to get the concepts better than the way we used to teach math. And it's wildly different than what we've been doing. Exciting.
One interesting anecdote that I see as a positive is that this program, because it's adaptive and it's tech-based, teachers know, one of the things they've said, in their own guilt and conscientious minds said, I worry because, I see how the kids are doing all the time, right? So if I know a kid's struggling day to day, you're not waiting for the end of unit test, you're not waiting for the SBAC score, you know, and I think where the hard work comes in is just trying to figure out how do I adapt to these gaps that some kids have, because some kids lack certain skills. So really the other step, one of the things we're looking very closely at for elementary is how can we provide more effective in-classroom interventions that teachers can apply right away when they see a kid is struggling. Because that's not something we've traditionally done. We've traditionally said, oh, this kid needs extra help, so we're going to go to this teacher. How do we adapt to that? So I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's something that the teachers like. We like to know live how kids are doing, and that's great because we can talk to them right away.
Thank you for your hard work.
Sure.
Very much.
The teachers are doing the work, for sure.
Thank you for the teaching.
Thank you, Michael. It has been hard work. Moving on. Graduation rate between 16 and 17 for the 4-year rate, we are not seeing a gigantic difference. Still reputable rates. If you look at the 5-year rate, you see a slight decrease in the 5-year rate for Parkrose High, but overall district you see a 2% increase. So it feels like we, between the last year and the year before, have made great progress over 8 years, but not as much progress within the last year as we would like to see. But once again, a reputable rate and not a rate to be sneezed out.
And Karen,
Yes.
I mean, if in the future, I mean, if there's something the principals, I mean, something that we can do for the principals of the high school. I mean, like we did the 24 last year, hoping the number will go up. Like the unions, for example, had like a 40%, absenteeism rate. I wonder if that closed campus thing is working out. I'm not sure, but you know, I'm willing to listen to whatever new ideas they may have on how we help our high school students. I come from a closed campus side. I work in a David Wallace, in kids don't leave the school, they just stay there. I'm willing to listen to any radical solutions to diminish the absenteeism rates, especially among
We haven't quite got to that yet,
Okay.
but we'll talk a little
I'm
bit about
more
what we're
than
gonna
happy to
do.
listen to any ideas.
Sure. Well, I think that's my job, and that is what I do.
One
And so-
comment, I'm sorry.
Just, go ahead.
One comment about the graduation rate of
Uh-huh.
class of 2017. When they were ninth graders, they were forecasted at 26. I was just kind of hoping to see a little more bump. Because now
Me too.
the class of 2018 and 19, they're forecasted at 24. So it's just, I was just kind of hoping to see that.
Oh, I don't
That
believe it. I don't
26.
believe any of that. I don't believe in forecasts. I think that we're gonna work really, really hard. And the thing that the principal wanted me to point out to the board tonight, is she has a child with broken legs, she's not able to stay. But, I said, gee, I kind of wish these numbers were higher. I mean, one of the comments is, we're getting kids ready for something. We're not just giving kids a piece of paper at Parkrose. We're getting them ready for what happens next. So I feel really good about the content of what we're doing with our kids, rather than just going for a number of what we think the numbers are. Our numbers, once again, are respectable, but they're not what we want. I don't want to see that it's only 81% of the kids graduating. I want to see 100% of the kids graduating. But we're not going to get 100% anytime soon. Going back to Eric's comment, being open and listening. These are constant conversations, the executive leadership team and the A team. Michael meets with Molly every week. I meet with her every other week. We attend their leadership practice. I mean, I don't think that there's any district that's more connected to our principal. She has employed some really interesting things. But you know what? The data doesn't always turn out the way we think it is until we keep working on it.
This is where the equity comes, because
Yeah.
81%, it sounds like a big number, but then that 19%, that is
Who
not
is
there.
that?
And then what if 40% are,
I'm with you.
minorities, or 60%?
Yeah, or 60.
And so
I would guess they were.
I would be happy to hear, ideas about how to make sure that 90%, which could be
Sure.
like super high on certain groups, how to make it so everybody has more.
I guess what I'm trying to tell you is we are listening to ideas. We're listing ideas. We do professional, we're racking our brains for ways. We've supported an AVID program to try to, I suppose you want me to move on, so let me move on. So on track graduation, those rates are up. If you look at that, okay, yeah, one of the big indicators is if your 10th graders are on track, then you have a greater opportunity for them to be graduating. This is proven in the research and why we choose it as a measure. Dual credits, of course, we haven't received yet. We're not going to get those to the June report, but those have gone up exponentially over the last few years, and we assume that that's going to happen again. And they're just simply not available at this time. College and career readiness, I point you to the item below because they're connected. We probably should have connected them at the get-go. But we gave you a presentation tonight, which is better than anything I could put in a box. I feel like you got a good presentation tonight about a whole lot of work that we are doing at the high school. And frankly, Measure 98 allows us 15% of those dollars to be at the middle school. And so we're working through the middle school as well.
I didn't have a chance to say it when the staff were here, but I was so impressed with the thoroughness and comprehensive system approach, because we had been
That's right.
prioritizing the most vulnerable kids through the AVID program, but now that
That's right.
we have the Measure 98 in 6 months to have a system in place that's like that is beyond impressive.
And it's because they were ready.
Yeah, yes,
You
yes.
couldn't possibly do what they did in 6 months
Yeah.
if they weren't ready.
Yes.
But how long has Jessica been here?
About 6 months.
About 6 months.
And it's not just Jessica.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a huge team. This is Drake, this is Andre, this is Michael. This is Annette, this is Antoinette, this is all the CTE teachers. This is a huge cadre of people.
And the work is obvious in their materials and their system approach,
Let's see what it proves. We
hopefully.
really want to see
Yeah.
meeting the needs of more kids, you know. I could go on and on as to why kids don't go to school at high school, and we're working on that. But I don't have a silver bullet. Teacher pathways, we also talked about already, so I'm not going to belabor the point. That's largely been work that Michael and I have done, trying to bring Mary into that work. And by the way, our HR director is missing tonight because she's ill. Improving the culture. Okay, this is interesting. So what I'd like to do is pass out to you what I was not able to give you. And I don't want to elongate my time here, so I'm going to go kind of fast. But one of your goals, one of our goals together, is to make sure that kids feel safe at school. This is very important, that they feel physically safe and emotionally safe, socially safe at school. We gave a survey January 3rd. We collected the information January 19th. That's why I couldn't put it in your packet. I only got the material this morning. Number one, I feel safe at my school. These are 800 children from the middle school and high school that answered these questions, and all of them answered all of the questions. 52% of the kids mostly felt safe. 45% of the kids always feel safe. And 3% did not feel safe at all. Number two, do you see bullying at the school? Not at all seeing bullying at the school was 35%. Sometimes saw it at 55%, and seeing it a lot were 10% of the respondents. 3, when I see bullying, this is where I see it. I see it in the hallways, 37% of the time. I see it in the classroom, 10% of the time. Other places, could be cafeteria, schoolyard, 23% of the time, and I don't see it 33% of the time. We know that unsupervised hallways are a problem at the middle school and the high school, and that is where we see long bullying, a lot. We don't have an administration here that's got its head in the sand thinking we don't have bullying. We know we do. There is someone I can talk to at my school. Yes, 84% of the time. No, 16% of the time. And my school is a safe place to learn. Yes, 89% of the time. No, 11% of the time. On February 12th, the superintendent is meeting with students at the high school for a student superintendent listening post about bullying and finding out ways that we can resolve issues. I feel it's better for me to get the answers from the kids. It's really hard to get them in a survey. So we're going to go out to the kids. I am. And I'm not going to be meeting with them once. I'll be meeting with them repeatedly. But we have invited students to come and talk to me. And it's an RSVP event so that we know how big the crowd is. But I will be reporting back to you on the 26th.
So you're saying certainly the hallways are
Yes.
bad. So
Yes.
cameras aren't, we didn't do.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there.
That's quite subtle.
Social media?
Social media,
Okay.
big time, big time.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely true. We could go on for an hour about that, Eric, as you know, looking at my stuff. Social media is just difficult for everybody. So that is what we found. We will add this information to your report. We just didn't have it in time. Then we talked about restorative justice. We're looking for 10% referrals. We have not had 10% referral reduction yet. We're only in January. In fact, we have an increase. And you know, we have to tell the truth here. We have to speak the truth and be transparent. We look at the number of bullying referrals. At this time last year, we actually have 2 more than we had last year.
Cool.
Yeah, 2. It's 26,
Yeah,
as
2 more.
rate to 24. I'm hoping by the time I get back to you in June, I'll have a 10% reduction. That's my hope. We're working on restorative justice. We've had a lot of conversation. You're gonna hear more from Michelle tonight. That's our goal as a board, to have 10% less referrals. And I can tell you right now, we don't have 10% less.
Is-
About 10% more.
Okay, but question,
Yes.
are these bullying at school, social media, who knows, it's a whole
It's a whole
gambit?
gamut. It is a whole gamut. It's any referral for bullying.
Okay.
Any referral for bullying. We wanted a restorative practice K-12. These referrals are 6 through 12, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
so they're not bullying. Any referral for harassment and bullying has to go to the superintendent's office by law.
And a couple of years ago, you got some, like the referral broken up by demographics.
We
And
do
that
it all
was
the
super
time.
helpful. I mean, that could
We
have
do
been
it
a
all the
possibility.
time.
Yeah, that would be
Happy
good.
to do it for you next time by demographic, absolutely. That's what we do. It's all by demographic. We just don't have it here. Moving on, we talked about hiring diverse staff. This year, out of 52 new hires, 31% are staff of color. That is a very good representation. In administration, we hired 3 females. For the OEA, we hired, you can read this for yourself. AA is African American, HIS is Hispanic, AS, somebody help me? Asian. Mhm. Sorry, tired. And you can kind of see, now, what is our demographic? Our demographic is 67% kids of color. We're not there yet. Once again, 31% is a good percentage of moving towards the right direction. I'm leading the statewide effort in 2 different areas on workforce development for education, trying to do this throughout the state.
What's the challenge that you see throughout the state? Is it keep masking, like more than that now?
Yeah, I could actually, if the board so desired, there is no simple answer to the big question you just asked.
Just, if I could interject, I mean,
But I'd love to give you a report.
if I could just interject.
Yeah, please.
I've been on facilities in East County for the past year and a half, and Mount Hood Community College has the same issues, getting staff of color. So it's not something unique to Parkrose. It's very uniquely East County, Oregon. It's just very hard to attract that type of talent. You have to make them want, let them know the opportunities are here, make them feel welcome here. It's just a challenge, and it's not just unique to Parkrose. It's very unique. It's just this part of the country.
And coming from the East Coast to Portland is very challenging for some people.
You know, at one point, I remember some schools, they went out of the state. They went to Georgia, I hired some principals. But then the culture didn't
They
match.
didn't
like,
stay.
And you know, the rain too.
They didn't stay.
So it's,
This is huge, and once again, you know, there is so much going on in the state in this issue. And that is where I have positioned myself. It's one of the biggest areas of interest because it affects Parkrose. I would love to report to you at some point because I think it's fascinating. But suffice to say, 31% is moving in the right direction. Our goal is a 5% increase towards parity.
Well, and let's remember that part of this is not going to happen without natural attrition, with people retiring and being able to
True.
hire
True.
a more colorful staff.
And more diverse staff, and we're looking for diversity of linguistics. Everything that we can do, we are doing, but you know, we're beginning Grow Your Own programs where we want to grow our community, we want to grow our parents, we want to grow our educational assistants. Michael didn't mention it because we didn't ask him, but we're also working on a pathway for them with Portland Community College and PSU and Pacific. There's so much going on, you just can't put it all in a report. But this is huge. It matters. It matters that kids see themselves reflected in the staff.
I mean, we
It
see,
matters.
if we see the kids here, they gotta have parents somewhere.
Our parents.
But
So let them work for us. and we can
Yeah,
turn them into
that's good.
teachers, that's what I say.
Hey, looking at the clock,
Sorry,
looking at
I'm
the
so
length,
sorry, I'm so sorry.
it's not, I never want it to be said that Dr. Gray is not passionate about
But I
what
may
is
ask questions,
going
it's not just
on.
me.
What is going on
Okay.
in Park Road?
Yep, so discipline disparity, yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I can,
Move on.
I'm gonna have to move on.
It's
But
sad.
we will come back. Don't think I'm reporting and then like I'm ding dong ditching. You know, I'm gonna come back and we discuss this with the principals. It's disheartening data, just saying.
Yes, it was.
Equity team, we are definitely using the equity team, especially in our IGBC conversation. And equity conversations, we're showing the film, I Am Not a Racist, Am I? And a lot of work is going into that. We invite you to come on the 21st. In the area of attendance, once again, our standard for attendance is not the same as everybody else's. We're 90% of 90%, that's what we are measuring. So rather than get into a whole conversation here, what I do want to say is, on February 26th, I will be giving you a school-by-school report on what we're doing for attendance. In addition, today Michael and I were on the phone with ODE, who just accepted a position in their chronic absenteeism grant. And we will be getting between $150,000 and $170,000 in the next little while to work with a consortium around this issue. I will report more later, because our time is fleeting. But we've been identified, we're excited, we need to bring Michelle in. She wasn't at the table, but we will have her there. We are very excited about the things that we are planning.
Can you read my question?
So we've got a question and a question, but then we gotta move on. So Sonia and then Eric.
I just wanted to see what the time frame is for the funds that, for this remaining
Yes,
school year.
so that's, yes. So this is a biennial grant, it's $3 million.
Okay, I have a job of keeping things in order.
Dave has a question too.
I haven't finished the question.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't finish the answer.
Oh.
I'm going as fast as my mouth can move. Around March, April, we get the first installment, which is 20 to 40,000. For the fall, we get 150. Okay?
Okay.
So we gotta go fast, just like ODE likes to do.
Would it be possible in that data to get
Uh-huh.
Wednesday attendance? Is there a drop off with elementaries?
Sure.
And, okay.
Sure, happy to. And Eric, you're the last one, we gotta move on.
I think she can read my question. I mean.
I know what your question is. Oh,
She can read
You got it? Okay, there you go.
your point
Let me
is
ask-
what we live, eat, and breathe. If the kids aren't there, they're not learning.
No,
So I'm with
broken
you.
up by graphics.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, oh, yeah.
How long has that grant been in the pipeline?
I
Months?
like it. Oh, yeah, I knew this was October. I
Okay.
mentioned it. That,
Okay, that sounded sort of.
yes, they
So
couldn't
you
get their
guys
act
are working
together.
on it, yeah.
Yes, Eric, by demographic.
Thank you.
Now here's another one that doesn't play very well. But but you guys, there's reasons for this. This, you know, if I had Annette and Molly sitting here, honestly, they wouldn't think it was funny. I mean, we don't either. But there are reasons. They're changing the way they do things.
What happened there?
Well, I'm saying to you, they're changing the way they're doing things. And so they are alarmed that there is more discipline, but they're also clamping down on truancy, absenteeism, truancy, in a way they haven't done before. Once again, you know, you're not getting the benefit of the people that are in the trenches doing this work. You're getting it coming from your superintendent who's going, what the heck? And so we tried to give you a little explanation here, but you know, we've done the research on why. There are reasons why you can see some of them there. We're not happy about this data, but there's reasons for it. So, you know, if we need to do a follow-up in February to this, I'm happy to have Molly and Annette come to the meeting and discuss it with you, but neither am I going to beat them about the head because they're changing things to do a better job, and it's also resulting in more referrals.
Well, if you took away the truancy numbers, they'd be about even.
Well, so that's the point.
Yeah.
That's why the said
Yeah,
that.
no, I
So
see
they're
that, yeah.
clamping down on truancy, which is something we haven't done before. If Michelle has a comment, she looks like she's got one. I can see.
I was just saying, we'll see the effects of the effort in the attendance rates.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point.
What-
Is you should be seeing that. Thank you.
What is Rosen doing? Rosen is like 84% above the high school, pretty much above everybody else. Is it the demographics out there, or do we have any clue?
Usually, they are no higher than anybody else. I am not clear why their data is better this time around. I can tell you that in the beginning of the year, our numbers are higher. And then they go down, and then they go up, and then they go down. In the June time, they're down again. So this is pretty typical for districts. Remember, this isn't straight up attendance. This is 90% of 90%. You have to understand that. I am collecting the regular state data. I'll show that to you next month. And then you'll go, oh, okay. So, we'll do that, but I must move on. And you'll get a big report next month. Sorry.
You're fine.
Moving on to the superintendent goals, suffice to say, I didn't do very well with PTO meetings. I've had all kinds of other meetings, but I'm going to be back to the PTO meetings. I've been meeting with the PTOs. I just haven't been meeting at the PTO meetings. So I'll be joining, however you work that out, I will be joining you at those meetings. Community Solutions Fun Group. This time we had some community business members. It was really cool. We're going to keep working on that. We're going to do Neighbors Meeting Neighbors. We're going to do a big event. And PERS, of course, we're going to have a big conversation about that on February 12th. All of you will be in on that. Superintendent evaluation. Yeah, you guys will be doing that. You got me the questions. I'll have the questions done by March 23rd. And then at your April executive session, we'll be discussing me.
Okay.
PLC teams, we meet every single month. That is another hour presentation if you have the time. And then we observe all principals 4 times a year, at least, in a very formal way. And we do mid-years and we do end of the years. Okay, so do we have the board's goals?
Under them.
No, we're under us.
Oh, we're under you.
Yeah.
Got it. That's it. Moving on, technology.
Yeah.
Okay? So, technology, I think Christine, was this your presentation?
Such as it is, yeah.
On graduation rate. I don't think there's a whole lot to report. That's different than the report that she does have something to talk about.
I just have really pretty PowerPoint slides. So this is kind of the usual report that I do. Again, timing is a little funky because we don't have state data yet. State data is released on Friday.
Yeah.
There was no way they were giving it to me ahead of time. So I will add that in when I get it on Friday.
So can I ask a question?
Mm.
If, and I know that we say that these goals will be looked at midway through the year. If we are 4 days away from receiving the state data, and this is January, doesn't it make sense to do some of these reports after the state data comes in? Or am I just being ridiculous right now?
It makes sense to me. I'm not really sure that's a useful topic at this very moment.
Okay.
Because right now, I got a presentation to do, and it's today, and I'm not getting the state data till Friday.
Go right ahead with your
Next year, maybe. We can talk about it.
We're trying to get to you twice a year, even so we can show the progress report halfway through. Yeah.
Okay,
And
go
when you
for it.
build your goals calendar in the summer, you don't know when you're going to get the state data.
Okay, well, that is something.
January.
Okay,
So we should, you know what I mean, like, sometimes it doesn't happen.
okay. That was a question I've now rescinded.
Well, like I said, I'll fill in
Go
the
for it.
boxes on Friday. So you already discussed this,
Yes.
we're
Go
basically
to the
flat.
next one, that's good. The next one is good though.
Mhm.
So this is just a look across time, and it uses colors. We're moving forward, there's nothing to be ashamed of or concerned about or disconcerted in any way about our data. Every year is not gonna be a 5-point gain, that's crazy talk. We change what we do, we refine, we adjust, we tweak, we try and do a better job. And sometimes that means incremental gains. Frankly, we kind of scooped up all the low-hanging fruit a while ago. It's gonna be, you know, a couple points a year from here on out. That's just reality. And then a couple years, it's gonna slide because it's different groups of kids. And so I have no concerns about this data. We've gone through every single kid that started with us in 9th grade, because that's the rule. We're fine. We're where we're supposed to be. We're just not ringing any bells with 95% graduation rates. Okay, I'm done.
But then on Friday,
Yeah, well, we'll see what the state is.
well,
State should come
might
in.
surprise us.
We have a lot of kids in and out within those 4 years, right?
Yeah, that's all accounted for.
Or is that okay?
We're the last, whoever was their last degree granting institution, that's who counts in their cohort. So if we were their last degree granting institution, they are in our cohort. So they went to David Douglas, they went to Centennial, then they came to us, and then they disappeared. They're ours. Started with us, went to David Douglas, went to Centennial, came back to us, went to Portland. They're Portland's.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Next up would be Human Resources. Taking the place of Mary Bradbury Jones is Michelle Markle, and she is going to talk about the Parkrose Job Fair. And then she'll stay up for her portion.
So we met as just a brainstorming committee recently with operations and myself, and talked about really creative ways to try and recruit people to work in Parkrose, talking about the benefits of working in a smaller district from some of the other larger districts. We sort of know that when people come here, they stay long term, you know, and they return, and we have students and family members who return, so we really want to capitalize on that. So Mary's got a lot of very creative ideas around that she can speak to in more detail, but we have decided to aim for March 14th, Wednesday, as the date to do our Parkrose job fair. And we're talking about
18th?
March 14th, which is Wednesday. And talking about having it at the high school, after school hours, so that, you know, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but our own staff can kind of learn about ways in which they can work across departments. So like if I have a part-time EA in my department who wants some additional hours, could they do something in food service or with bus driving, or, you know, like that sort of thing, so that we can try and maximize the working hours of our staff and work together. So that's great, creative idea.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's unique. I think it's quite unique to have a Parkrose Job Fair just for young people.
Love it.
It will be for our internal and external.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of cool, like we're having a job fair. Nice. Next up is Michelle Markle, playing the role of Michelle Markle. And she's going to talk to us about two things: restorative justice update and special ed childcare.
So I won't go too in-depth with this, but I just wanted to provide a larger picture of restorative practices. I think so many times when people think about restorative justice, they're thinking of it as a response to some harm that's done, or like an alternative to traditional discipline. But when you really look about building a restorative community, it is, you know, informal to formal, daily interaction, the way that we treat each other, the way that we acknowledge conflict and work through it together, to things that are more formal. We can go and scroll down. I just provided some examples in there of what restorative questions are, affective questions. So it's really bringing the ability for people to name their feelings in response to anything, like normalizing that. We are whole people, we can't just compartmentalize and just be, you know, brains walking around. This is really hard work as adults, and surely for the kids is also very hard. And so we want to just normalize talking about feelings. It helps us all regulate when we do that. I'm using the triangle here just to show that a huge part of this is really around building and sustaining trusting relationships within our schools. And that's something that we're doing daily. We want to model that together. Our principals are doing that all of the time with their staff. And these are several different ways that just community-wide we can be working to infuse restorative culture within our schools. So community circles, inclusive decision-making is a really big part of it. So we're solving problems together. We're doing this sort of work together, side by side with each other. We're not doing it for people. We're not doing it to people. We're not doing it all. We're doing it with, side by side. And again, highlighting that effective language. It's okay to say, I'm frustrated about this, or I'm scared that something might happen. You know, it's okay to say those things. And then, you know, if we're looking at the tiers again, repairing relationships and restoring community are higher up in the tier, so we're wanting to have this solid foundation. And then if things go a little bit sideways, which they predictably will, right? I mean, that's just natural. Then we have many different tools that we are proficient with to persevere through challenges. For us, if you go ahead just to the next page. So this year, remember, we already had our all classified event. There were 12 elementary and 12 secondary teachers who went through 2-day RJ training. Remaining this year, we have 1 day each week of coaching at the middle school and high school for staff who've completed that initial training. I am working with the PBIS leadership team to lead these restorative practices into our tiers of support. So into our green zone, you know, what we're doing for every kid, every staff member, how we're responding yellow, how we're responding red. And then our administrative leadership team is putting our community building circles into practice. And so when a problem arises that we need to solve, we're practicing doing circles together. Mm-hmm. And it just brings a different sort of level of solution sometimes. And builds our capacity to be comfortable in more emotional situations, which is not totally difficult. And then for 18-19, we want to continue to build our own capacity and our school leadership team's capacity to model and be comfortable with this style, and then also expand that more like regular and smaller group classified training. So just that one big event needs some follow-up.
Was this something that was able to be used, or techniques around this being used at Prescott today?
Yeah, so
it kind of gave us the frame for that conversation.
Yes. Yeah, classroom circles were done in each classroom just to make the announcement, and then what we decided to do was just invited students to state a positive memory about Mr. McCarthy, or something positive, or something.
Michelle, would you say what happened, please?
Sure.
Not everybody knows.
Yeah, so our site lead at Prescott for the last 6 years, LaShawn McCarthy, died this past weekend. And a group from Parkrose staff and SEI staff and Elevate staff met yesterday at Prescott just to make a plan. You know, there are response plans, we call the SMART response system, that really walk us through being thorough and thinking about how to support students. What we've learned is when we don't have a plan, emotions take over, and then it can just become something very negative, and there are really specific ways that you can just put some things into place to make it more natural, but then get back on path. And so we talked together and made a great plan for that, and it sounds like everything went really well.
And your message yesterday was greatly appreciated, because it was obvious that everybody was on top of it. And I can truthfully say, somebody contacted me and was quite concerned about how to deal with the sense of loss that they too were feeling.
Yeah.
And it was quite nice to be able to say, there's a plan in place, you're not going to be alone.
I have a few words to say. I met LaShawn during the activity 3 years ago. He has such a big heart. He's got a lion heart, and it really saddened me that you know he died. He's a friend of all kids, and I'm speechless. But he was such a great friend to everyone. I think he has such a lion heart to talk to everyone, especially the kids who needed him the most.
Well, I had originally expected 4 or 5 people to show up to Prescott yesterday, and it ended up being 30. And it was probably third Parkrose staff, and then a bunch of our partners from SEI and Elevate too, and they were just like, we're here, let's do let's figure this out together. So that gave me great, I mean, it's just a nice,
Like,
nice to know. right?
Yeah,
that we're doing
it
this
says,
together.
it says something about Sean, and it says something about the partnership that we have established and the relationship that is there.
So we got through one day and now no grief is long term, so
Right.
we keep working together to support.
Thank you.
Okay, child count? Just briefly.
Yeah, I went really old school with you guys here. I think Christine's mortified. I just printed out our census graphs and hand wrote in the things that I thought you might want to know.
So I
So,
enjoyed reading it.
did you?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to make another graph. There's a graph for me.
She just.
Yeah.
So primary disability verification, if you could scroll down to the numbers, Andrea. This shows trends across disability areas. So you can see like on the top, autism spectrum disorder is on the rise. And that's trending everywhere. Communication disorder is kind of stagnant a little bit. Same with emotional disturbance, that's pretty stagnant. Hearing impairment is always low. ID is very stable. OHI is on the downward trend a little bit, which is interesting. SLD is pretty stable. Visual impairment is. So I was, when I look at this initially, when you see the graph with that very high numbers of communication disorder and very high numbers of specific learning disability, I took this, we all looked together as county directors at our data, and we're right in line. The trends are, and the amounts, the percentages are right in line with everybody else, and it's just very interesting.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, particularly with communication disorders.
And you'll notice, we talked about this on Saturday, 527 of our census count, and that's up 40 students from last December, 40 additional eligible students. That's a lot.
But not $41.
No.
No.
Not even dollars.
No, and and we talked about this on Saturday as well, but I'll say it again here, is we only get the double weighted ADM for 11%. And so any child over 11% that becomes eligible, we don't get any additional money, and we're at about 16% in our programs. And so there are some high cost disability, excess cost, and waived 11% waiver that gives us some of that money back, but we only end up recouping around between 40 and 50% of the so. Okay. No. You probably have the exact number in your head. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yes, I do.
Very nice presentation on restorative practice. I hope you had a chance to see what Michelle created. She created it for this meeting, so do take a moment to look.
Well, hopefully we're all reading our packet before we come. So I was highly impressed. Thank you.
You can skim over the rest of these two really quickly. This just disaggregates by race, ethnicity, identification, and then federal placement. And I just wrote down like examples of what those percentages means to make it understandable for everybody. You guys have questions about any of this?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we hit numbers and operations, we're going to take about an 8-minute break so people can move around and talk to each other and use the loo and eat cake. So we are in recess for 8 minutes.
Okay.
Recess.
Long break.
We have one person left from the cabinet.
Supplemental budget.
They always put the fun things last.
I
That's
noticed
cabinet
that.
member last.
I know it.
Anyway.
What? We were talking about how delightful you are.
Oh, that's a fact.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay, supplemental budget is the wonderful things that people, it's money, and occasionally you do have to change it. Right now, the supplemental budget will be changing a whopping 1%. We're at 60 million, we're going to 61 million. In that supplemental budget, there were 4 funds. We have 18 funds in this district. There are 4 funds that exceeded the Oregon standard of 4%, the 10% law. So you all got a copy of that, it was Schedule C. And in that Schedule C, it tells you, and it's the same thing that was part of the public notice. Basically, transportation fund, okay? The reason why the transportation fund, I saved some of the money, is I had enough money in there to pay my debt, so I didn't move money into the fund this last year.
Good.
I will be doing that this year, because I won't have enough to pay the debt.
Okay.
The retirement fund ended up with a little bit more in the fund balance, which was nice. Student body funds, it is the largest change, and the reason why, this is the second year of the fund. And as you create it the first year, you end up with the balance sheet, the assets and the liabilities, and the second year, you have to do the revenue and expenses. So as the audit changed and closed, now we know how much revenue comes in and how much and expenses go out. So at the end of the day, what's left is a fund balance, which in essence is the cash in your pocket. So the fund balance will stay the same, which is basically your balance sheet, and the revenue and expenses have to come back into play. So this should not change much in the future unless we have a huge amount of revenue and expenses that come into the student body funds.
Shani, quick question. So when we have the minus 42% on the top, can you go up? Yeah, that one right there. So that means we have more money or less money?
That means you had less money.
Okay, and then plus what, 151%, that means we have more money, which stays in the student body fund forever.
Well, yes.
Yes.
I have to appropriate, remember when I talked about when I first got here, we didn't have a student body fund.
Yes.
We had a trust account, but it was never budgeted or appropriated for you to spend. And for us to get it within compliance, I brought it into a fund structure, which means I have to create all these parameters to make us legally compliant, to be able to spend the funds.
Okay, and that stays, so that money stays
It stays in there,
a student body,
That's
student
it.
body. Okay,
it is there for keeps.
for them, for students.
Yes.
Yep.
And the last one is the bond fund, and as you know, the bond is, we're spending it down. Because couple of the summer projects, one of the roof projects being Russell, I didn't get the invoices in time, so you ended up with a little bit of extra money in the fund balance. But now the Russell invoices have come, there's no more, it's not in the fund balance anymore. And since I've given Karen and Michael a summary of what's in the budget so far, and we're just under $500,000, where that shows 1.2. You can show us expenses came in. We've had a lot of them from the summer projects, which we spent pretty much $550,000 on the 2 roof projects. The bills have come in. So that's the bond. So out of the 18 funds, there were only 2 funds that did not change. No revenue, no expense. The smallest change was $61. The largest change was $565,000, which was the student body. Any questions? I can go through the details, but I prefer not to hear people snore, because you might snore, because it's that boring. But it's exciting to me. But,
And we appreciate that about you.
And you always lay it out very concisely and understandably.
Yes, you do.
very detailed.
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
Can you tell me a little bit about the student body fund, how long you've had it, and what the
The student body fund's been in existence as long as this district's been around, pretty much.
Okay.
The difference is the district was treating it as a trust account. And by the state accounting structure, it's actually a special revenue fund. And it's not that it was technically wrong, but we weren't appropriating the funds for us to spend. It wasn't in the budget. So we had to put the money in the budget for the school to spend. It was in the yearly financial statements, and you got a separate financial every year. However, it wasn't in the budget for me to show the community that I had the money, just like everything else has been through my class. Unless you appropriate it, you're not allowed to spend it. So that's what the rule was. I had to put it back in the budget to spend it.
So I mean, Jerry, so that student body fund, can that money be used to buy iPads for the new coding class at the high school?
No.
Okay. What kind of examples?
Student body funds are things that are associated with the student body. That means the activity of the student. So if the student, you're buying it to do a field trip for those kids and the parents receive the funds, and I know you have young kids, as you have your kids in the future, you're gonna pay money for them to go to the field trip. You wanna collect money to buy them a special t-shirt for that special event, you can put that in the student body. You cannot put funds in the student body if it's paying for PD for a teacher, because there's nothing associated with that student. It has to be a correlation to that student.
Uniforms, we make one example, soccer balls, for example. Like, things that you could buy would be like uniforms, sports.
If you're going to like a band uniform,
Uh-huh.
if it's not directly associated with that school, and if they, because we normally buy band uniforms out of the district's general fund.
Uh-huh.
So we wouldn't suggest that you do that out of the student body. Okay? So we would say, thank you, parents, and we'll take that donation and we'll put it in our special revenue fund, and we would buy the band uniforms, but we don't want to put that directly associated into the student body funds.
Aren't the student body funds usually, high school and middle school have a larger amount of student body funds than, say, the elementaries?
The high school activity last year was roughly about $600,000.
Yes.
So,
Student body funds are small, but,
At the elementaries, because you're thinking about when you buy your student body cars, those things that directly then affect the student body.
Bonus students at the high school.
Right.
like they sell candy,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I see.
But it has to go back for an association of the benefit of the student, not the benefit of the employee or the principal.
okay.
And it does get audited 3 times a year by us, and we give you the reports.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're into the home stretch.
Thank you, Shirley.
Mr. Doyle.
LCA. Yes, you did.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Keeping with the last couple of months, I don't have a lot for you. I think I may have mentioned before that we're going to be doing a membership drive coming up. It's only a couple weeks away now. So we will be having a little more visible presence, active presence in the building, talking to people, communicating to them about what we do and why we're important, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You know, just mostly, I would say probably the biggest function is just to communicate with our members so that they understand the purpose of having a union and, you know, so it's a kind of an outreach event in a way. As well as ensuring that everybody is signed up that wants to be signed up. A lot of times with new employees, their membership card is kind of lost in that thick packet of paperwork they get when they first get hired, so they forget to sign it, and then, you know, because of their share, the dues are coming out of their paycheck anyway, so they don't even realize they're not a member, so this is kind of our chance to pick up, you know, as those folks that think they're a member and want to be a member, but technically aren't. Anyway, so that's coming up. Other than that, you know, the planning committee is working, getting, you know, really starting to get down to doing the work to get the benefit concert going again this spring. As we've done each of the last springs for, well, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. Been going for a while. So that will be happening again. Unfortunately, I don't know the date off the top of my head. I want to say it's like mid-May, like May 12th or something like that. It's a Friday. I know that. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, that is. Oh, and I can also report that the Blazers lost tonight. I know that's always of interest to some of you.
I wasn't aware they were playing.
Yes, it came down to the last second, unfortunately.
That's unheard of.
Anyway, I believe that's all I have for you, so unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions?
You had mentioned last time that you had a lot of folks that were asking for funds for assistance. Is that still happening, or is that?
Since our last meeting, we've had 2 more requests, so, yeah. I would say that that is continuing, and honestly, you know, I mean, usually January, February is when we expect to see the most, because it's, you know, of course, you're following the Christmas spending sprees. You have your highest electricity bills of the year, and you haven't received your tax returns yet. So, so this is really the time that we usually see the most need. You know, I haven't necessarily seen anything increasing, but it's still kind of keeping that unfortunate and, you know, pace that's higher than previous years. Thanks, Brent.
I haven't seen Deb in a long time. Deb from Brussels, is she still a member of the union?
Yep, she is still our vice president, and actually she will be, she along with Michelle Straub, our treasurer, are kind of leading the efforts on the benefit this year. I believe Deborah is going to be actually going out on leave I think next week, so she won't be around as much, and so I think she's been preparing for that. Haven't been dragging her to the meetings as much.
That's very kind of you. Okay. What? Nice job. Mr. Davison. Would you like to introduce your PFA guest?
Nope.
Okay.
This is Julia Garte, Parkrose royalty. She's on the video on the website from the last board meeting, I believe.
Yes, she was.
So, sitting right about here.
You have more teachers?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
This is Anita Lee from the high school Spanish teacher.
Right, I heard.
She came to our workshop
high
Saturday.
school Spanish teacher.
Studying administration, I think.
Yes.
Ah.
Good girl.
Stay in the classroom, it's less.
You go, girl. Oh, Pete.
I had more power in the
All right.
classroom.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, I would like to start by having PFA officially recognizing the board and thanking you for what you do for our district and our students. I don't have cake, but everybody's probably full of that. A couple of upcoming things I wanted to mention is actually tomorrow at the high school library from 5 to 7 p.m. There's a East County Legislators Town Hall, something that's occurred for a number of years. But again, that's at the high school library tomorrow, 5 to 7 p.m. I know that a number of folks in the district are planning on attending, and so I've gone before, and you're elbow to elbow with, you know, legislators from the state, so you get direct access to them, so it's a neat opportunity. The new certified contracts are finally on the district website, so you can peruse those. We also have a number of printed out copies that were dispersed to representatives of the buildings, and I will be tomorrow and in the near future hand delivering a copy of those to all the building principals, just to make sure that they have one of those, and it's another opportunity for me to get a quick face-to-face meeting with those folks. I've finally met with all the elementary principals, but not the middle school or high school administrators. Beginning February 1st and running through the entire month of February is something, there's a survey called the TELL survey. I think, I don't want to assume that folks know what that is, but that gives employees a chance to answer a whole series of questions anonymously, which hopefully ups the honesty of those answers, and then those results are available to folks. So right now you can go to that website. I know I was on it checking out the Sacramento results of the different questions, and then also comparing that to the results from my children's school, so it's very easily to click on multiple schools and look at those questions. So again, that starts February 1st and runs the entire month. So as a union, we're doing some things just to make sure folks are aware of that, the ease of getting on there, and hopefully taking some time to do that. On February 5th, a few employees will be going down to Salem to lobby, to lobby in general for education. I know of, I think, 3 folks that are going for sure, and a few others that are thinking about doing so. And that was really all I had until Michael was talking about, and Karen, the partnerships that are in discussion with colleges, and I believe this was called Grow Our Own. Karen, I believe was a name you gave that we heard about a few months ago in a management meeting, and not to go into that too much, but this is something that as a union we're very interested in. Knowing more about that program as it moves on. I know when I heard about it, I sat up a little more straight. I thought it was a great idea that, we have a number of classified employees. We talked about those employees of color and speaking different languages. We have a lot of those right here in our district. They're not certified employees. So if we could find a way to help them come along, but then that trickle down to the high school students,
Yes.
as they go into a teaching program, providing them opportunities to student teach right here in Parkrose. So, like the mentoring program that the union and administration has partnered together with financially, but also supporting, we definitely would like to work hand in hand with this in any way that we can going forward. I think it benefits everyone.
Oh, I
So,
concur. There is nothing nicer than seeing former students being outstanding professionals in this district.
I'm not quite there yet with my former students, but it's getting closer. So Julie, you are.
Waited to at Prescott. Never mind.
There's something about it that just makes you really proud.
Yeah.
Were you in Mario's class at one point?
No.
Myself?
Yeah,
No.
no.
I did his grandmother.
Was she mean? I'm asking.
No, she was not in my class, but she worked with me. Okay, Aaron. I'm measuring this one up.
John McLaughlin?
Yes, it was John McLaughlin.
Can I answer any questions for any folks?
Thank you for giving me the times for tomorrow night, because it's the very last thing I have written on my agenda.
Okay. You're welcome.
And you do know that Karen and I are unable to come because we are at a sanctuary city meeting.
I know that now.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
I had emailed you and said that
Probably.
me and Mary Lou couldn't agree
Yeah.
because we were in
Yeah.
a sanctuary.
I may see you, I don't know until the last minute. I don't live that far, but it's just the last minute that sometimes, yes, I can go and I have, so I may come late or be early in the, I'll see tomorrow. Yeah. I've been there
You
before.
usually don't miss it.
I've been
I
there
will-
before, and, yeah.
Last year, and I know we're going over time, but this is worth it. Last year, it was at the middle school, and there were some Reynolds teachers talking to the group I was in, talking to Diego and somebody else. And as they were talking, there was this green light that went on. Diego's on the Reynolds School Board. He did not know some of the things that they were saying. And the emotional honesty that took place that night, I think really did have a positive impact on the elected state officials who were there. So I know it takes a lot of work to do. I hope that a lot of teachers attend, particularly since they're living in the district now. And I would hope that some of our board members could find their way over there tomorrow, because they need to hear it over and over again. And I was just thinking, if they gave us a 2% increase that they failed to do because they went 50-50, I wonder what that would do.
2% for,
Remember, when they did the biennium, they gave us 50
oh, yeah.
this year
Yes.
and 50 for next year? Well, what if the state legislature got wise and gave us 50 plus 2%
This for next year.
for next year?
I think what they wanted to say is they gave us more money, but not exactly.
But not really.
Yeah.
So, sorry I took over your
No, he was out of time when you started. It's okay.
Moving on to action items. Action item A, accept or reject the travel reimbursement rate, .545 cents per vehicle mile / 64 per diem in accordance with board policy DLC, expense reimbursement. I believe that this is just keeping us up with the IRS rulings.
It is.
So do I have a motion to accept or reject the travel reimbursement rates?
I move to accept the travel reimbursement rates.
I second.
Okay, I hear Dave moving and Eric second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the travel reimbursement rates signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next thing is accept or reject the supplemental budget for 2017, 2018 that Cherie presented just a short time ago. Do I have a motion to accept or reject?
I move that we accept the supplemental budget 2017, 2018.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the supplemental budget signify by saying yes. Yes. Motion carries. Now we are on to Board of Education, and I have some notes here. That one got crossed off. Committee reports, equity and school improvement. So since school improvement is, anybody want to talk about what happened at equity and school improvement this last month?
You can go first. When we met in this room, it was a different setting. Outside. There were small discussions happening everywhere. I think that in particular we talked about the most was religion. I think we talked about religion in the school. And you know how, if we really think about it, we go back to 2018. 2018, we don't think about it, but it's actually a religious holiday. Everybody knows why 2018 is 2018, right? The Jewish community, they have their own systematics, their own numbers. And the Chinese community, they have the year of the dragon, the year of the rooster. The Hindu, they have their own system. So it's everywhere. We just don't see it because it's there. Even the days of the week, they're named after a certain Greek and Latin gods. So it's really an eye-opening when you think about the things that are influenced by religion, that are part of your daily life, and you don't even think about it, just walk through life. And so having that understanding is like for example, like when we have the Christmas, the season of Christmas, if a teacher or administrator feels that, what we call the Christian, not Christian, Christmas spirit?
Yeah.
And I feel like at one point or two, some teachers may have, some couple of carols joining the students, but they may not have been religiously. I don't think they had that was bad, but it's things that we really need to talk more about it, because sometimes, like I find myself doing things, but we also gotta talk about a background too. The religion is kind of like talking about like cultural roots. Like I grew up, for example, my dad went to a Masonic temple, and I grew up Catholic, but I have this conception of religion and religious people, and I never actually went to a religious group all the time. I just kind of like everybody's the same, that's it. So, and I accept everybody, I mean, I have a student from all over the world, I say Eddie Mubarak when it's time for, you know. But there are a lot of people that are not aware of this, and it's definitely worth stopping by having that conversation with people from different religions. It's kind of like for me when I'm in the equity group and I hear from the Native American community about their perspective, you know, I think about it because I'm not in that perspective. But being from a mainly Catholic country, I grew up with people who all share the same traditions, Christmas, King's Day, you know, all the same. And so it's hard to acknowledge those things until you are out of your element and somebody from a different perspective points that at you and say, oh, that's actually a religion. And you think, oh, it's a religion. And so there's more to come, but it's wonderful discussion. And I don't think many teachers are aware they do it intentionally. But you're probably going to hear more about it.
Well, we had the presentation on the origin of the religious holidays. We went through Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter, and talked about basically how the origin of all those celebrations, American celebrations, are based in some form of Christianity, and so how that can be really uncomfortable and a challenge for a teacher in a classroom who that's their culture, that they're sharing that culture with a child that doesn't understand that culture. It's not shared at home. I appreciated the presentation because it really made me think about how dominant that one ideology is in the way that we celebrate our holidays. But it's very exclusionary because there's so many other beautiful cultures and religions that are not celebrated and aren't expressed, and kids are, they're not sharing their experiences in school because it's the dominant Christian holiday, the Christmas tree. So with all that messaging, I really appreciated the presentation about the origin of the holidays, the money that goes into it, and how it's just it's so centered on that one type of faith, and how that's, the history of what we do in education, and it's illegal. And I appreciate how Karen said, what we're doing is not right, it's separate, you have to separate church and state. So I appreciated the presentation. I think the other thing that we did was, you gave us the policy to look at, so we went into groups and looked at the policy in regards to religion and celebrating in our schools. And so as a table, we just talked about what we need to do going forward, how we adjust the policy and change it, and we blend or pull different parts of what we celebrate to make it more, so we're able to bring different components of different religions. So we could maybe look at emphasizing the value system. So that where it could be love and friendship or sharing for December. Just looking at creating a new system to celebrate, but not just based on one type of holiday. That's not Christian based. And that's a very generic version of what we did, but it's kind of an overview of what we did.
A couple of words came to my mind, like when we talk about diversity training, I feel like religious training, so people can be aware of all these things that we may not always be aware. So people are conscious that and acknowledge that there might be other people, not that it's bad. And this conversation also happens in the city of Portland. I took my kids to the Christmas tree. And that's government, that's the facility, that's the living room. Yet, they technically, by some standards, it could be something illegal. However, it is a tradition, and so it's very complicated. But we definitely, we're gonna hear more about this in the list. And I'm looking forward to learn more, especially from different religious backgrounds.
Lots of other faiths. Celebrate.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Educational Foundation.
Yeah, I went to the Education Foundation meeting. Still more grant requests coming in. Jack, who's on the foundation board, has been, there were some hacks at his work. He works at the a screening and embroidering place. Anyhow, the Education Foundation is gonna sell some hats that say Parkrose and have a rose on them, the black with some white lettering and a white rose, as a fundraiser. I think they're $10, $12. So contact somebody on the Education Board if you're interested. And that's as just a fundraiser for the Education Foundation. They're working on auction details, including this special appeal. They had to reschedule their February meeting because it fell on Valentine's Day, so they'll actually be meeting on February 12th, the same day as our work session, but they'll probably be meeting over in the workroom. And I invited them all to come from 7:30 to 8:30 to hear the conversation with Piper Jaffrey about the PERS bond possibility, if they can make it. April 14th, right? That's the dinner.
The dinner is in.
The auction's
Mark your
April
calendar.
14th. Mine's been marked for a year.
I know.
A report from the Oregon School Board member of Colored Caucus update.
So I should have a report in a month. Our next meeting is still slated for February 24th in Salem. So I'm supposed to be getting some information prior to the meeting, but I don't have anything additional to update right now. So I was happy to see that they had some announcements about our group on the OSBA website. So they had the announcement about the formation of the group, our goals, and then we elected the membership, the leadership, our names were listed there. So I'm glad to see that that's being, the word's out about what we're doing and what our mission and our goals are. So yeah, looking forward to this meeting.
Good.
Board goal report, and I'm gonna talk about appreciative inquiry update, and then legislative update, and then I'm going to throw in, after going through some board policies this weekend, and going through our goals, because they're things we wanna meet. Excuse me. I have a suggestion that we do some amending of our goals. And I'm just gonna stay with the thought since I'm here. It came to my mind, it became very obvious that I would love to add another goal. Where we have 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would love to add another goal, and that would be to respond to any emails from Andrea requesting an RSVP or information within 48 hours. And the reason I'm saying that is because she sent out a request for what we had done legislatively. And though there are some things added, some of us did not respond to her. And so she ended up doing, completing this for us because of her knowledge. I know that there are some other RSVP she's asked of us, and we have not gotten back to her. And I guess as I was looking at this, I was thinking, Eric, you're better when it comes to soccer. Football and basketball, okay. But everybody has a goal, and you get penalized if you don't follow the rules of the game, which can keep you from reaching the end zone or kicking the ball into the net or making that last minute basket. You can get penalized. And when I'm thinking of the amount of work Andrea does coordinating all of the board stuff, and also she is the secretary assistant to the superintendent, it bothers me to have people of our caliber leaving her hanging. So I would like to add a goal that we can have that we are able to numerically track at the end of the year, that we will respond to any requests from Andrea within 48 hours. I see some that are not. So we'll hit that later.
You know,
Eric.
like, when I see a few things, if we scroll it up, I think we did that one together, and back where I live, there was a debate going on.
Yeah, I
and
know, because you go to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm always attending those, out of my own interest as well.
Yeah.
I just failed to report it, but I will make it my goal to, report more often, yeah, and keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
Definitely. But yeah, in fact, the people that I was assigned to are people that I live close by to me, and I see them like really often, like fairly often, all the time. And not just face to face, but we communicate throughout the years, and I just, I don't think about it, but I should just let them know, and I'm going to go kind of keep that in mind.
Well, thank you. And the same thing goes like, we have a Saturday function at the ESD. And I don't know, have you heard back from all 5 of us?
No.
Okay. Which means that she's either got to contact us individually or make a guess. And it's not professional on our part, guys. So can we add a goal that we will respond to Andrea within 48 hours?
I have a suggestion.
We call it board secretary.
Rather than putting it in a goal, I'm not sure, I think it belongs in the goal doc. The goal doc is a different kind of level of goal.
Okay.
This is really operational.
Okay.
You may want to put that in your board superintendent agreement. It's under board communication. That's a much more operationalized document. This is much higher level, just saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that, 'cause to amend it, because we already put our goals together, this is more like a pact that we will do this year. And then in August, when we come back for our retreat, we actually get to the nuts and bolts of doing it, where it really belongs.
Okay, so we're going to add it to the superintendent board agreement
In August.
in August. But right now.
But we're gonna live it.
Crap.
Yeah, right, you think you're supposed to.
The board evaluation, appreciative inquiry, we had a really, really great meeting. And people brought additional people. And that's why I ended up at Sacramento for game night. And it was wonderful. But appreciative inquiry is talking about putting a neighbor-to-neighbor function together and bringing the elementary schools, which will bring the high school and middle school, into some kind of activity similar to what we had with Black Family Nights, so you're going to have multiple activities going on at one time. And some food and some really excited people about making this work.
Is the priest from the
No.
church coming?
No.
No.
I think so.
What was
St. Matthew's is closed. They had a disagreement within their membership,
Oh, really?
and some voted to leave, and there wasn't enough to keep it functioning.
I remember he came to the
Yeah.
Christian Friday.
Yeah. No, he was
And
great.
his sister
With a
as
net.
well.
Right. But Kate
Different
from
people came.
Kate from Historic Parkrose is coming, and she's doing a super job, and brought somebody with her. So, a woman who's moved her business to 112th and Sandy, and she had some great ideas. So it was good.
No, I think she came on her own just through the Parkrose Business Association
Was that? She got
invitation. Yeah,
Okay. Because she wanted to know more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's all in.
yeah, she was all in. Legislative updates, we've kind of covered that. And we're doing well.
Oh, I have an announcement. I'm planning to go on,
February 31st,
January 31st.
January 31st, yes.
There's like a three-fer, a town hall, Barbara Smith Warner, Michael Dembro, and Alyssa Keeney Geyer. So I'm gonna go to that on the 31st.
Me too.
Represent Parkrose? Okay.
It is at the Hollywood Senior Citizens Center.
I think 6:30 to
6:30
8
to
maybe?
8:30, I think. But it dawned on me that we have not been hitting up Alicia, Kenny, Geyer, and we need to. So,
Because it happened after this happened, I went with Eric to the Democratic Party, I think it was Senate position 24.
He came with me.
Which
Yes.
fingers into our district and represented our district. It's more likely a candidate from that caucus
mhm.
win. So it's just advantageous to put a Parkrose face. My question wasn't asked, it was about Measure 5, it's a very huge passion of mine. So I talked to Shalila?
Shamia?
Yeah, Shamia Fagan.
So, former David Douglas school board member,
Mhm.
we
Yes.
talked briefly, and gave her my card, so. She, Rod Rowe has been there, he's a constant, but he also comes with a little arrogance at times about winning. So it's gonna be a very, I think it's gonna be a very tough race. And so whoever wins, I think it's gonna be a good win for education. That's the name of the crux for our school district.
I just felt that you really connected with Shamia. I mean, Imani, but the way you guys talk to each other, But it was a great debate, excellent debate, and I keep you guys in the loop.
Well, and you keep going. We might have a change of card celebration before the year's out.
Individual politics out of it. This is about school.
Well, I'm talking about school here. Input from the workshop that we all enjoyed on Saturday from 9 to 12.
Thank you for you and your staff's hard work on putting all that information together. It's not a good message.
Yeah, it was
Doing that early December.
I was the first one to come here, and Michael and Christine and Charlie, they were already here. They had this place ready for all of us to show up, and had a meeting, copies were made, food was here, and I just got to remind them that this is a Saturday for the staff to come on a day perhaps they're not getting paid. All of us work in education. I mean, it's 5 days a week, and it's sometimes after school. So it's just really wanted to thank them to make that extra effort to come and hear us on that day. Thank you.
That's really incredible.
And Michelle as well. Thank you, Michelle. And the new teacher, sorry, Margarita?
No, Jeanette.
Jeanette, okay.
No, I appreciate the simplifying of the complexity of what we are dealing with. And in a manner that I did not have nightmares all night. The next day, a little queasy, but didn't have nightmares.
I'm glad.
So, thank you for
We
that.
don't need a hospital trip.
I'm not ready for one right now, but I sure would like to see the state increase educational budget by 2% for the next school year.
97? I think on that.
It's ridiculous. No, I'm sorry, guys, there's no, you have,
I'm going to the newsletter.
okay. Well, our secretary is going to get the newsletter. I want to go through a couple of board policies with you, just because I am the way I am. A board member will utilize social media websites judiciously by not posting confidential information about students, staff, or district businesses. and will adhere to public meeting laws, blah, 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 and communicating with other board members, blah, 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 blah. We all know that. Suggestion from my part is that, I know that we're all members of the district's Facebook page. And so when we get stuff that Andrea posts, let's just repost that and then make some cute comment and not take all the time to create our own stuff. And that way we're sending out a consistent message that has correct dates, correct times, correct procedures, etc. that will happen. So, I'm not gonna deal with that one. We're coming back to amending this, or maybe it's using the correct verbiage. When we did the board goals, I was under the impression that we were not talking about each one of us attending a PTO board meeting in all 6 schools. I was thinking that we were talking about attending, what do we call it, an engagement night type activity.
Like an event or a function?
Like an event, like, you know, you got movie night.
Yeah,
SAC has game night. The high school does an intercultural dinner. There's little musical programs, there's plays, et cetera, and the reason I'm saying so that was how I interpreted it.
I think I did the same thing.
That was not how I interpreted it.
That's not how I interpret it.
Okay, so you guys,
Because I do that anyway, I have 4 kids in it.
well, I know, I don't.
It wouldn't be a fair request of someone who has 4 kids in a district and you guys don't have as many kids, it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to have a requirement that they attend the PTO meeting, that anyone at least attends 1 or 2. That makes sense.
Okay,
What doesn't make sense is,
let me throw something out. According to board policy, the person who speaks for us is the board chair or the superintendent. Superintendent always will speak first, and then it comes down to the board chair. And a board member has the authority to act in the name of the board when authorized by a specific board motion.
I didn't know we were talking about
I think-
speaking for the board. I'm
yeah.
talking about going to a basketball game, my kids cheering.
No,
No,
I think the
see,
point
yeah,
is
no,
though.
see, well, now you and I,
I'm
okay.
confused.
Engagement is a basketball game and you're cheering.
Yeah.
PTO, parent-teacher organization, board meeting is when the president of the PTO, their treasurer, their secretary sit down and plan things.
Or they're running a meeting and getting reports.
Or they're running a meeting and getting reports, which is different than activities.
Yeah.
I'm still hanging up on that conversation before we get into this one, and I think I understood the same way you did about an event, and so I was thinking, yeah, I'll go to the event, but I understand, for example, Sonia, she's already doing that. I don't have as many kids in the schools at this point, and you have one?
Just one.
One.
In Sarah, you have one, but you know, we have toddlers, and that's a different ballgame. And I know that we have the best of our interest to attend as many as we can, but we also need to talk to our wives, and at least I have to talk to my wife, because I have to make arrangements for childcare. I mean, I'm more than delighted to attend any events with any of you at any time, but I also believe that all of us are in a different stage of our lives, and some of us at this point may have greater flexibility than others. I'm all for supporting, going to business, but at the same time, I have to think about my wife and make sure that she is also okay with me giving her a dollar and a 6-year-old, 7-year-old at home. I mean, you have husbands, right? And I think about it too. I mean, I don't want to be the person who takes the entire family time just to do what I want to do, and then she doesn't have any time. But that's why I have understood that any event throughout the year, and that was perfect for me, because I said, oh yeah, actually I will go and support my daughter, whatever whether she's singing or a movie night. And I'm okay with that, and if I'm invited to attend another PTO, if I'm available, we will have lots of meetings, like for example, or invitations like tomorrow's town hall. But I have understood it the same way as Marilu, that some events throughout the year, and I was happy with that as well.
So events, what you are doing, but not individual schools, PTO board meetings.
Yeah.
And that would be the superintendent and the board chair. And you're shaking.
No, not necessarily, because they're also, we get elected in the community, so they're putting a face to their elected officials.
But they can do that at a basketball game as well. Because if you are going as a representative of the school board, then you have to be elected to do that.
Authorized by the board.
Authorized by the school board.
But this is another issue then, so we're beyond the events and activities, right? So, I mean, I say if all of us give Marilu a certain talking points and she stays in those certain talking points, and we tell her go for it, she can only say that, but that doesn't prevent someone else from coming.
It doesn't prevent someone else from coming, but it would prevent me from going and saying, I think X, Y, and Z about the school board. Because then I'm speaking on behalf of the board.
I think.
Or it would prevent me or anyone else on the board from giving a board report without board authorization and board talking points.
And because we
Board
haven't,
approved talking points.
and because we haven't had this conversation, that's when issues arise.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we don't have a protocol or a system.
Exactly.
I don't remember ever saying, yes, Marilu, prepared and speak on it. And you know, things happen when we don't have, I mean, that's why we need to have.
Well, right, it's kind of a nebulous goal, right? Like in that people misunderstood the goal, so it's not really a kind of a SMART goal, right, with specific, measurable, da-da-da-da-da. But then I think it took us doing it to figure out that it went against policy. It
Well,
took just
yes, because it says right here in BCB number 5, this is the board officers, and there's only 2, chair and vice chair. Represent the district and the board at official functions unless this duty is delegated by the board chair to another board member. And my concern is that particularly right now, we have got to have a talking points that are the same in all 6 schools. Because we are going into a budgeting time that is going to be a very unpleasant time for us as board members and for the children of this district. And we need talking points that we don't deviate from, Eric.
I'll say let's assume the good intentions of everybody.
I agree.
We haven't talked about it until today. I mean, this would be something that we could add on a regular basis and be more structured about what's going to happen. But for the time being, I'm okay if Tere goes, or Sonia goes, or Sarah goes, and if we haven't agreed to the talking points yet, let's just say to the people who are there, in my opinion, and this is what I believe, and I think what as a board member, in my opinion, this is what I can say, but because we haven't agreed to whatever talking points those are, we try to make that rule that those are going to be the talking points today. And I remember back to the times of Mr. Trujillo that he also wanted us to have talking points, and we never agreed on the talking points for whatever reason.
Yes.
But if we talk about talking points, then we're going to have an issue of, I don't like him, I do like him, and then we're going to waste time just talking about talking points. From my perspective, I just everybody goes, the community benefits from seeing us all there, talking to them, making relationships with them, bringing them in, we build with trust.
But once again, are you talking about going to the movie night at Sacramento?
I think whichever one is available to us. I mean, if, for
Those
example,
are-
Sarah,
okay,
that is singing, I mean, that's good. You're making communication with family.
Sure, I attend movie night and I chat with people that I know, but I'm not talking about board business, nor am I reporting on the content of board meetings or board decisions.
But Marilo isn't.
Isn't?
Are you?
Yeah, she went to the high school.
I was at the high school.
Were
Dave
you,
was at
were
the
you
high school.
talking on my behalf without my consent?
No,
I don't think so.
She's the
you
board
already gave me
chair.
consent,
But
honey.
we didn't agree on talking points.
No, you
No,
don't
but
have
she's the
to.
board
You
chair.
gave me,
No,
you
I did not.
elected me
No,
as
no,
the chair.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so back to Trujillo time, back to the Trujillo time. We did not agree on talking points back then, and so, and you know,
Eric,
I wanna go
I
back
have
to the
a
best
suggestion, if you
intentions.
don't mind,
Uh-huh.
if you don't mind.
No,
Let me
make it.
interject for just a moment, please. On February 12th, because we can do this all night,
Yes,
and it's late, and I'm tired.
yes.
So, I've sent my staff home, because they have to get up in the morning and get back. Yes, and this is kind of circular at this point. So, on February 12th, do you not have an OSBA training?
we do.
And this topic was brought up by me to OSBA to cover that night. Who speaks on behalf of what? Because we talked about this months ago. Who got to speak on behalf of the board, and who gets to speak on behalf of the district? This was brought up 2 months ago. We have a February 12th training. Let's listen to what Kirsten, it's either Kristen or Kirsten, Miles, has to say about the topic of board members attending PTO meetings and who gets to talk about what. Because we're sitting here guessing or we're listening to board policy and you're not agreeing. So let's hear it from OSBA, who's your organization, and have a conversation with her about it, and then make a decision about what you're gonna do. Because I don't feel like you're gonna come to a consensus tonight.
I agree with
Well,
that.
as a new board member, I'm a little baffled that we even put that up there, and it's in the, and it strictly states in the policy that it shouldn't be that way. I mean, how did that happen?
Well, because what we talked about at the retreat was, Dave had brought up, I think that people, this was right at the end of the retreat,
Yeah,
right at the end. I think that it was Dave that brought up the idea of going to PTO meetings, and we put it into the goals. Truly, it did not belong in the
It didn't
goals, to
belong
tell
in
you
the
the truth.
yeah.
That's not a board goal.
Right,
But you know what, you asked me to, I put it in there.
okay.
So now the question is, once y'all show up, what do you do? Because there was a high school meeting. Dave showed up and Mary Lou showed up. Who's talking on behalf of the board? What's going on here? And we don't lobby for our own point of view. You're board members, you're not electeds like a representative.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
So that's what Kristen is gonna cover. She's gonna cover the difference between your role as board members, elected, and, Representative Diego Hernandez's role as an elected, but it's a different role. So why don't we let the experts tell us, and then I think we get done with it. Yes, Mary Lou?
I agree.
And then, because you're just not gonna get there from here tonight. And that's okay.
Mr. Carter, have something to say as well?
I wasn't at the Community Solutions meeting, but I had 4 parents that were there that had said that the 2 board members and the superintendent were there to talk PTOs and talk about the realities. Is that?
Yes, that is true.
Absolutely.
And I had already told Andrea to put it together, because that's what I had done with
Did
that.
we have that in an open forum and a quorum? Did we talk about it at the board? Because I looked through the agenda, because I want to clarify.
No, because Dave, let's wait for the 12th. When you elected me board chair, and you might not have voted for me, that is part of the given job the board chair has.
Well,
To officially speak for the board.
I think,
Eric,
uh-huh.
we're gonna put this off
Well,
until.
I got to remind you that before you were chair, I think you really need to look at yourself in the mirror, Milo, because you are changing 180 degrees from what you said 2 years ago.
No.
And you know, let me remind you that Mr. Grassel and Mr. Trujillo will also intending to do the same, and you and I did not agree with them at that point.
Not
So
on.
Dave and Eric, are you guys saying that you would prefer that Mary Lou and I not go to PTO
No.
meetings and
No.
talk about
Oh,
the budget?
well,
No,
let's
no,
put it right
I'm
here.
trying to
So
understand,
Dave
like,
and
what's the
Eric,
next action, because we have a couple things coming up in
We
the next
do.
couple weeks.
Would you? No.
I assume good intent here.
No, there is not good intent. Right now, I am not a happy camper. I believe somebody called me unethical at that meeting. Eric, I have not changed who I am or what I believe.
We shouldn't be discussing
Maybe
in that case.
no, my turn. Maybe personalities got in the way. I understand what the board policy is and I understand procedures. And for the sake of the school board, there is nothing that needs to be discussed further than right now. We have seen a copy of Karen's evaluation questions that Sarah and Dave put together.
Mhm.
I believe Karen has looked at them.
Can speak to them.
Go.
So I put these questions together, there's 8 of them. I started with our goals first, and then I looked at last year's evaluation questions. A number of our goals are continuous year to year is around academic achievement, in particular in school culture. So if we asked a question last year, like about reading, we did a deep dive on reading in the evaluation last year. I did not include that this year, right? I felt that would be kind of repetitive. After I drafted the questions, I sent them to Dave. He had a week, he provided some feedback, and then as per previous superintendent evaluation processes, I ran the questions by Karen for her feedback. She pointed out the 2 academic goals were a little bit more focused at the staff level rather than the superintendent level, provided some suggestions, redrafted, sent those to Dave as well. He got back to me, and then I provided them to Andrea to include in the packet. Pending approval tonight, Karen would take about 6 weeks until what, March 23rd, 23rd?
March 23rd,
And
right
then
before spring break.
get this back to us, and I think you would, and then we score it using the OSBA superintendent scoring rubric. We discuss it in executive session. I'll compile everybody's scores and comments into a draft. I'll run that draft by Dave. And then we can all read the letter at the business meeting.
And usually what happens at the April business meeting is that the board would read a summary.
Right.
So one of the 2 evaluation team members would read a summary that kind of you have come to.
Yeah.
A pretty high level summary in public, basically to say, here are the things that are working, here are some things we'd like her to work on, and then the board accepts or rejects the evaluation. In my contract, it requires that by the end of April. And so I would like to have them to you before spring break. So that, and I'll be sending those to you. I'd really like to send them to Sonia and Dave because you guys are the evaluation committee. But it's,
Oh, you mean
No,
Sarah?
Sarah and Dave,
what did I say?
Sonia and Dave.
Oh.
My S is mixed up. I'm
Yeah,
looking
no,
at
no,
Sarah
that's-
saying Sonia.
That's totally fine.
Sarah
Send it-
and
yeah.
Dave, because you're on the evaluation committee. And then, of course, you'll share it anyway. that
Sure.
you see fit. I do like to be a part of the executive session for at least a portion, so that I can be available for questions. And then, of course, leave you to it at that point. And that's really the right way to do an evaluation, I feel. Love the questions, thanks for listening to my feedback. I want to be able to answer them, otherwise I'll just go to Michael and go get the answers. And that's not good. I mean, you want to know what my role
Yeah.
is in this work.
So
So
I have
thank
a-
you for changing that.
Do we have a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation questions?
I move that we accept superintendent evaluation questions made by Sarah.
Do we have a second?
A second?
Any discussion? Seeing that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We don't need to discuss the board budget right now, but here's the difference between sending out a colored newsletter, and this is what a black and white looks like. And there is $269.96 in the difference.
Well, I vote for color. Do we have the money?
If we stop spending,
Not for a second one, I don't think.
yeah, we do,
Oh, do we?
yeah, if we stop spending,
Is there any ways we could save money in what we spent?
yeah,
How about cookies?
huh?
Making cookies? No.
Yeah, well,
Cookie
no,
dough.
I mean, cookie, I mean, if there's
Cookie
cookies,
dough.
yeah.
no, we can do, we can stop with birthday cakes.
I'm okay with that.
How about, yes, and, I mean, maybe we can put money together and just make, okay, like $20, somebody add one of our pesos, and we have, lemon or something. I mean, I'm okay with a cake.
So we cut the cake.
Yeah, there's only $296 difference between black and white and color.
I know, that's shocking.
Why would you not do color?
Yeah.
Because color at least grabs people.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, we do the memo ad,
Mhm.
which always we get very good feedback on.
That's good
And we
here.
can always cut corners, and even on some things, we can use other funding for.
Sonia and I
when
are doubled up,
appropriate.
right?
Yes, we
Yes.
doubled you up, so we cut corners on our conference.
Well, no, I mean for the hotel room and,
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think like, where's all the,
Yeah,
where's the
that's-
savings?
Yeah,
The NSBA registration travel
Trying to be
estimate,
thrifty.
right,
that is $6,900.
right. Right,
This is the first year we have the budget, and then next year we're gonna get better. I mean, this is the first time we actually have it, everything, that we
Yeah.
get to see, so, we see it one time, we learn, and then we can move along.
we make sure we, as superintendent and assistant, we review the board's budget and the superintendent's budget every month. We know what's in there,
Oh, I mean, ours, like.
yes,
This
just
is the first
saying.
time that we've been proactive with it.
And I was trying to assure you that we always make sure that we're not going over our budgets. And often the board has not spent its budget, and we just recycled it, just saying.
Any future discussion items? I heard Karen saying that she's gonna let us know about absenteeism and what each school is doing.
And a little bit more, I think, on the discipline I'd like to report to you. So that would be for February 26th, including the reading data. So that is definitely part of my presentation to you in February.
Any correspondence or announcements?
Oh, there's correspondence.
Who corresponded with us?
The essay regarding
What did they
my
say?
award.
Oh, congratulations on becoming 2018 State Superintendent of the Year.
Yeah,
I grant you that.
so that's official correspondence, and we'll keep a copy on file.
Well, I hope so. With the positive correspondence, the meeting's adjourned.